Hello, I am Candace Perry, Environmental Justice Director at New Jersey's Department of Environmental Protection. With NJDEP having proposed the regulations necessary to implement the state's landmark environmental justice law, I hope this brief tutorial will help you understand how to use our Environmental Justice Mapping, Assessment, and Protection tool, or EJMAP, to analyze the extent to which New Jersey's overburdened communities already experience adverse environmental and public health stressors, which will assist in determining disproportionate impact under the proposed rules. Before I dive into the tutorial, let's start with some background. If you're up to speed, please skip to the timestamp on the screen to get right to it. Unfortunately, there are some communities, because of their minority status, income, and limited English proficiency, that experience disproportionate environmental burdens, like air and water pollution, than their neighboring communities. These communities also tend to have comparatively less environmental benefits, like access to open and green spaces, with trees that help cool and clean the air and soak up stormwater runoff. As a result of these inequities, these communities tend to suffer from higher rates of health conditions like cancer, elevated blood lead levels, and asthma. The goal of environmental justice is that everyone, regardless of who they are or where they come from, has equal protection from environmental and health hazards, equal access to amenities like parks and outdoor recreation, and equal ability to influence environmental decisions about their communities. It is well past time for New Jersey to act toward achieving this vision. Because of New Jersey's environmental justice law, there is a new opportunity to make progress toward this goal. The law requires NJDEP to assess relevant environmental and public health stressors affecting New Jersey's overburdened communities, and to deny or modify permits for certain facilities that cannot avoid causing or contributing to adverse environmental and public health stressors in that overburdened community. The first of its kind, New Jersey's environmental justice law allows the NJDEP to take into consideration existing stressors in a community when evaluating new or renewal permit applications for certain types of facilities. The department's authority under the law applies in circumstances where three criteria are met. One, the facility is located or proposes to be located in an overburdened community. Two, the proposed or existing facility is one of the 8 types of facilities listed in the law, such as major sources of air pollution or a scrap metal facility or a landfill. Third, the applicant seeks the type of NJDEP permit or approval covered by the law. The law defines overburdened communities, or OBCs, as those census block groups in which, and according to the most recent U.S. Census, at least 35% of households qualify as low-income households. Low-income households are those that are at or below the poverty threshold as determined by the U.S. Census. At least 40% of residents identify as minority or members of a state-recognized tribal community, or at least 40% of households have limited English proficiency. This means households without an adult that speaks English very well, according to the information from the United States Census. Where the EJ law applies, an applicant must submit an environmental justice impact statement, or an Aegis, to the department. The Aegis is a document that evaluates whether a new facility or modifications to an existing facility would contribute to environmental and public health stressors in its host OBC, or overburdened community. The Aegis must also address how the applicant proposes to avoid, and where avoidance is not feasible, minimize such impacts, and under certain circumstances provide a net environmental or public health benefit to the overburdened community. The Aegis will be made available to the public in advance of the public hearing. To ensure members of the overburdened community are able to have their voices heard, an applicant is required to hold a public hearing in an overburdened community to present the proposed project and the Aegis, with a public comment period of at least 60 days to provide opportunity for feedback from those most impacted by the proposed project. Notice and materials will be made available in languages accessible to community members, and the applicant will be required to address all comments received. The department will evaluate the Aegis and the information presented at the public hearing and through public comment to determine whether the additional environmental and public health stressors expected from the actions in the permit application would, together with the baseline of stressors already impacting the community, cause or contribute to adverse cumulative environmental or public health stressors in that OBC that are higher than the non-OBC communities in the state. If that is the case, a disproportionate impact would be present, and the NJDEP may deny the permit or only approve it with modifications that avoid or minimize those impacts. On June 6, 2022, NJDEP proposed rules in the New Jersey Register to implement the environmental justice law. The public comment period is now open, with written comments accepted through September 4th, 2022. The department will hold public hearings to hear oral comments on the rule proposal. Information about how to provide feedback on the rule proposal can be accessed at www.nj.gov/DEP/EJ. The department will review and respond to comments and hopes to make the rules final and effective thereafter. The EJMAP tool provides the DEP, applicants, and the public a way to visualize where OBCs are throughout the state, where existing facilities regulated under the law are located, and what existing environmental and public health stressors currently impact these overburdened communities. This information will help applicants to produce their environmental justice impact statements and understand the process that the department will use to evaluate the Aegis. This is also a step toward the EJ goal of giving everyone equal access to influence decisions about what's happening in their communities. A key ingredient for being able to engage in such decision-making processes is having the necessary data to understand the issues at hand. The tool is released today in beta version. We look forward to receiving feedback from the public as the regulations are being finalized on the structure and functionality of the tool and on a technical guidance document that details the tool's underlying calculations. Please email EJMAP, EJMAP, feedback@dep.nj.gov to share your feedback. EJMAP has 4 tabs, so at this time, I'll pull up the tab and let's view and explore how they work. First, the Introduction tab provides a narrative overview of environmental justice in New Jersey, New Jersey's EJ law and its requirements, New Jersey's overburdened communities, and the purpose and use of EJMAP. Basically, more details on some of the information I just covered. The remaining tabs have GIS features that allow users to search locations like municipalities, addresses, or blocks and lots. The OBC Criteria Tab is an updated version of the environmental justice mapping tool released in 2020. The map defaults to the revised OBC locations updated with 2020 census data. The original OBC locations layer, created using 2019 census data, is also viewable to switch on and off for comparison purposes. However, the 2020 OBC layer, which reflects the most recently available census data, is the official layer for determining OBC locations and understanding which of the 3 demographic criteria, or a combination of the criteria, they meet to qualify as an OBC. Again, income, minority status, or limited English proficiency. As I noted, the data used to identify OBCs has been updated with the latest U.S. Census data as of 2020, as required by the EJ law. This update resulted in changes to the number of OBCs either because of the updated demographic data change designations or because of 2020 redistricting changes to block group boundaries. You can see the most updated list of municipalities that have overburdened block groups within their municipal boundaries on the Office of Environmental Justice website at www.nj.gov/EJ/communities. Some block groups designated as OBC in 2019 are now listed as having no population according to the 2020 census. This increased the number of zero population block groups significantly, highlighting the fluidity of the census data and the concern that redistricting decisions might undermine the protections intended by the EJ law. Where an overburdened community is located immediately adjacent to any block group that has zero population, the department considers the zero population block group to be an overburdened community. So to show you the functionality of this tab, let's start with an example. I will use the address of DEP's main office building in Trenton. So if I click off this About tab, and if I zoom out a bit, you can see that the search result, or DEP's main office building in Trenton, is in blue, is in a blue shaded area. So according to the legend here on the left, this means that DEP's office is located within an overburdened community designated as low income and minority. If I want to see a bit more about what's happening on the screen, I can turn on and off the legend using this icon here. And if I get lost looking from left to right of where I am, I can turn on a set of layers to help orient me within boundaries that I'm interested in. So if I click on this tab, the layer list, I can turn on and off the municipal boundary layer. So you can see the municipal boundary is turned on here, and then it's turned off there. So let me zoom out a bit just so you can see Trenton. And then I'm going to click on the layer list, click on municipal boundaries, and then I can click it off. And I can even click off or on the overburdened communities layer. So here you see that no overburdened communities are populated, while I can still see the municipal boundaries. And if I click it on, it will show me where the overburdened communities are. And if you're interested in different ways to visualize the map, you can click on this third icon here that's called Base Map Gallery. And you can scroll through and see different ways to look at the map. So if I'm interested in seeing the map in a navigation style, then I can click on that. And maybe if I'm interested in seeing a community map with community sites, I can click on that. So let's move on to the third tab, or the Facilities tab, which shows the locations of the existing regulated facilities covered by the EJ law. As you can see here in the legend, it also shows subcategories of facilities in some specific cases. So for example, specific types of transfer stations and specific types of recycling facilities. Each facility has a special related icon. Remember that there are 8 types of applicable facilities under the EJ law. When you click on the tab for the Facilities tab, all of the applicable facilities appear. But layers for the different types of facilities can be turned on and off so that you can look at one or a combination of facility types at a time. Or you can look at all of them simultaneously, like it is when you arrive on this tab. So this will give you an understanding of what facilities are currently in a community. And so you can just turn on and off these layers by selecting these checkboxes here. So if I would only want to look at recycling facilities, I'll just check them all off. And so here you're only seeing the recycling facilities and the related subsets of recycling facilities. So for this example, I'm just going to check them all back on. Okay, And we will go back to our original example of DEP's main office building at 401 East State Street. All right, so okay, so if I zoom out a bit, you can see that there are a few facilities nearby. So this one is a major source of air pollution. And it looks like, according to our legend, that these black squares are all scrap metal facilities. The last tab, the Stressor Summary tab, provides the key data to support development and evaluation of an Aegis. Essentially, this map adds environmental and public health stressors on top of the demographic criteria that define OBCs to paint a picture of the current environmental conditions that Block groups experience. The map on this tab gives a view of which overburdened communities are currently adversely impacted by existing stressors and which are not. Adversely impacted means that an OBC is currently exposed to more environmental and public health stressors than its geographic point of comparison. I'll explain more about those terms in a minute. Through a stakeholder process, the department selected 26 key stressors for the following categories: concentrated areas of air pollution, mobile sources of air pollution, contaminated sites, various types of waste, recycling, or scrap metal facilities, point sources of water pollution, miscellaneous stressors with potential public health impacts, such as lack of recreational open space, proximity to or density to polluting facilities, and social determinants of health, such as unemployment. Details about these stressors are available in the EJMAP technical guidance document, accessible at www.nj.gov/DEP/EJ. Again, if you type in our example of DEP's main office building here in Trenton and zoom out just a bit, you can see that the building is within an overburdened block group that is already adversely stressed. If we click on the block group from our example and expand the pop-up box by clicking on this window icon here, some information appears. For each criterion under the OBC definition, again, income, minority status, and English proficiency, we can see the percentage for the chosen block group and the criteria that makes this block group overburdened. This one, again, is designated as an OBC due to the low income and minority status. But how does the tool make the determination that this overburdened block group is adversely stressed? Let's go down here and click on the link that says download data table specific to, and then it lists the block group identifier number. So this then pops up a PDF, and I'll make it a bit bigger. So starting with the ground level ozone stressor, which looks at the average number of days that the ozone level is above the health standard over a 3-year period, the value for this overburden block group is 2.3 days. If you line up all of the ground level ozone values for each of the non-overburden block groups in the county or in the entire state, from least to greatest, and then take the middle or the median value, you get the county or the state non-OBC 50th percentile here and here. So you can see for the county, the value is 2.3, and for the state, the value is 1.3. To determine if this block group is more stressed by ozone than their neighbors, we must establish a geographic point of comparison. To do that, we'll choose the value for the state or the county that is lowest. meaning most protective from a health perspective. In this case, 1.3 is lower than 2.3, so we're going to compare this OBC to the median value of all the non-overburdened block groups in the state, not the county, which will be the overburdened community's geographic point of comparison. This OBC's value of 2.3 is higher than their geographic point of comparison of 1.3. So this OBC is adversely stressed by ozone. You'll see that there is a yes in this last column. So for each of the stressors on this page, the tool does the same comparison analysis until we get a total count of how many yeses there are. For this OBC, there are 23 yeses, which means that 23 out of the total 26 stressors are already adversely stressed. So 23 is the combined stressor total for this overburdened community. We'll want to compare the combined stressor total of the OBC to the combined stressor total for the non-overburdened community 50th percentile for the relevant county or the state, again, whichever is lower. The tool calculates the combined stressor totals for the non-OBC county or state values in the same way as the individual stressors. For each non-overburdened block group in the relevant county or the non-overburdened block group in the entire state, the combined stressor totals are lined up from least to greatest. The median or the middle value represents the combined stressor totals for the non-overburdened communities in the state or the county. In this example, the value for the county and the state are the same. You can see that they're both 13. But if they differed, we would pick the lower of the two. 23 is higher than 13. So yes, this overburdened community is adversely stressed. So if we click back over into the map and we close this out and we click on this icon here that says About, you'll see an About table that pops up on the right-hand side, which shows the combined stressor totals and the geographic point of comparison for each county and the state. New or renewal permit applications for regulated facilities in adversely stressed overburdened communities are subject to additional environmental justice permitting requirements. And that is an overview of the EJMAP. If you have feedback on the functionality of this tool or the guidance document or have questions, please email ejmapfeedback@dep.nj.gov and we will get back to you. Please also visit nj.gov/EJ to learn more about environmental justice in New Jersey. Thank you.